All right, so here's my fun, funky, totally interesting, slightly embarrassing story that I'm going to share. Hi, everybody. Hi, sweet Geraldine. Hi, Aradna. So if you guys are on, please say hi. Here's my story, and then we're going to go into what to do if you're feeling funky and is social distancing driving you mad, and what to do about it. So yesterday I went on live and I talked about fuel, but here's my story, because you guys know I'm a little ADD, a little autistic. I go all over the map. Oh, I'm so funny. So the other day I'm in the grocery store, and this tells you that I'm feeling off, right? So I've been feeling funky for like about the past week in social distancing, and I'm a people person, you guys. I'm a hugger, I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter, although I can fight, but I like love people, and sometimes I don't, and sometimes like I joke that I'm a hermit, but I really crave physical touch. I crave affection. I love massages. I love hanging out with my friends and drinking a glass of wine, or like hanging out in a park, or like I just like socializing. And I also like my alone time. I'm happy alone. And so since March, right, I've been pretty much um like doing good with the social distancing. Pretty happy. Business has been going well. Life is good. I connect to people all the time, like on video, but it's not the same as in person. And so here's how I know that I've been feeling off. I was in the grocery store the other day, and I'm shopping around and getting my cart, and I like am following what my body wants, right? So I'm like, wow, I want pickles. Okay, there's some hummus. Okay, I'm gonna get like 6 sweet potatoes. And I got just some really random stuff that I normally never buy, but my like literally it was like shouting at me, mangoes, some other stuff. So I'm like in the grocery store. I was in in the produce section for a really long time, right? And then I go over like 6 aisles over, and I'm 7 aisles over, and now I'm like in the smoked salmon, like, and I'm like getting something, and I hear this guy behind me. He's like, "Excuse me, miss." And I was like, "Oh, is my cart in your way?" And so I go to move the cart. He goes, "Actually, I think that's my cart." And so this sweet, adorable man, we're in the produce section together. We saw like we crossed paths a bunch. I got like bouquets of flowers and all this other stuff. Well, that was not in my cart. And so I look and I'm like, I am so embarrassed. I'm like blushing. I'm sweating. My heart's pounding. And here's this like cute man. He's like looking at me like, you just totally filled my cart with all this random stuff. And so I'm like frantically trying to take all of the groceries out of the cart so he can like take the cart and go on with his business. Well, I had so much stuff that he had to like push the cart over to my cart. And he was so sweet. He's like, "You got some really good stuff here. I'm really impressed." And I was sweating. Cheeks were flushed. I was totally embarrassed. And I'm like, oh my God, I do not feel like myself. And so last night, I like was at home by myself, and I like started to have a good cry, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm usually not an I mean, I have a lot of emotions, but I usually don't cry if it's not precipitated by something that maybe might cause me to cry. so the reason why I started out with that story is because I have been fine up until about the last week. This social distancing thing, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. And I've gotten my bars run. Like I'm still like taking care of myself. I get Rolfed, which if any of you ever get Rolfed, it's freaking amazing. I'm an amazing Rolfer in Aspen if you're ever in Aspen. And so it got me thinking, like, what do we do and how do we not absorb I'm going to call it the dominant energy that's around? And so a lot of people are freaking out. We've got an election in the US. We've got a lot of people. Like I talked to 5 people this morning, and all but one, actually 6, 5 out of the 6 were like, I don't feel good. Something's up in my world today. I'm not sure what's going on. I need a little time or space. I'm not feeling very well. So I was like, okay, well, normally Happy Pants gets on and I'm like, and to be honest, we all go through crap. So if you're on, thanks for joining. And if you'd like to ask me a question about what's going on in your world, please feel free to ask. But I'm going to talk about one, like what to do for yourself when you're feeling funky. And also, if you're feeling funky, you're not wrong. Okay. If you're feeling funky, it's an invitation for change. If you're feeling funky, you don't have to avoid it, right? And so what I want to do is invite you to consider that the funky might also be an indicator that you're changing. So I'm going to give you guys a couple tools, and these are basic tools from Access Consciousness. If you're like, Access what? Go to accessconsciousness.com, check it out. But it's also tools that I've been using. So I don't even want to call myself a therapist because I'm not really a therapist. I am an instigator for change. And so, but I have been working in some form or another with people and their mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Okay. So, and I started doing that when I was like, I really started doing it when I was 18, 19, 20, but I didn't start getting paid for it till I was about 26, 27 years old. And so I have been literally helping people for a long time. And I don't even want to say help. Help isn't the right word, but inviting people, because here's what I believe. I believe that we all are natural healers. I believe that we all are psychic and intuitive in our own way, in our own, and I believe that everybody has the capacity to practice one, self-awareness, but to practice awareness and to increase your talents and capacities with your intuitive and psychic abilities. I also believe that everybody has the gift to heal other people. Okay. But it's not from, I am healing you. Okay. It's from, wow, can we activate your body's natural ability to heal itself? And how do we do that? Right? How do you activate your body's natural ability to heal itself? You have to allow yourself to know that it is possible. So a lot of people ask all the time, how did I become a healer? How did I work with Hollywood? And how did I, work with famous musicians and some really freaking amazing people all over the world, New York Times bestselling authors? Like, how did I get there? And I got there because in my 20s, I was in a really bad, crazy marriage, which you can read about in my second book when it comes out. 14 chapters have already been written. But I was in a very abusive relationship with someone I was married to. And one night they cracked my cheekbone with a fifth of vodka. And I was in the Galapagos Islands. I won't go into the details about the story, but basically my cheekbone was swollen and like puffy and all this stuff for probably a good 10 months. And I spent those 10 months energetically working with my bone structure to see if my bones could rearrange themselves. Well, you guys, this is the result. My cute, fluffy cheeks, right? So, and so I think everybody has that capacity. And so when you're feeling funky, funky is an indicator of a couple things. One, something in your life is changing. Right? So one of my favorite questions to ask is, what's right about this I'm not getting? And then the question I always ask is, what is this facilitating me to choose? Or what is this facilitating me to acknowledge? So if you have a pain in your body, or if you have an emotional pain, like a sadness. So it's been researched by scientists that A broken heart, the pain of a broken heart is the equivalent of breaking your femur, right? Of literally breaking a bone in your leg. Like, that's a lot of freaking pain. And sometimes we will judge or get down on ourselves if we have emotional pain, but we won't necessarily judge or get down on ourselves if we have physical pain, because we're like, wow, I hurt myself. And so we have proof that we literally have these pains. Okay. And so if you are experiencing emotional pain, physical pain, you feel alone, you're in solitude, you're sick and tired of social distancing. Like, I saw a friend of mine's post the other day, or it was yesterday, and she took a picture of her friends that were like 2 or 3 tables away. She couldn't sit with her friends because it was too many people at the same table. So she literally, in a restaurant, had to social distance from the people she came to the restaurant with. Like, talk about insane. And so if this is making you crazy, you're not alone. And what I would say is, what is it facilitating you to choose? But the other one is, what is it facilitating you to acknowledge about you? Yeah. So what is it facilitating you to acknowledge about you? Are you bold? Are you happy? Do you have a capacity with something that you've never before tapped into? And so one of the things that I think is currently happening, at least it's definitely happening to me in my life, is I've gotten to this place in my life where I've been somewhat successful. I've been, for the most part, happy pants for 8 years. I've had my ups and downs. I, definitely fall down a lot. I fail a lot, but I always get back up. And in the last couple weeks, I've been like, this feels really not like me. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I started to ask some questions. And what I realized is, I've been kind of floating in this place. Well, my life, my body, my being is asking for an upgrade. It's asking for next level, or more consciousness, or more space, or more possibility. And so as I've energetically taken this leap, I'm still pretending that everything in my life is from this place. And so that's kind of a big gap. So if my consciousness is here, but I'm acting like I'm here, that would create a little bit of a discord. It would create a little bit of a disconnect. It would create a little bit of a wonky, funky, like, WTF is going on here. So if you guys are watching this and I'm striking a chord, are you guys with me? Is this resonating with you? Do you have any questions? I'm going to keep going, but I just want to make sure, because normally you guys aren't so quiet when I'm live. But you guys are quiet. So that either means that I'm like on point, right? Yeah. Oh my, says Kaz. Exactly. Exactly. What else is okay, cool. I got 1 heart. So apparently I'm on track. I'll take it. So, but it's like, how many of you, this social distancing is causing you to go inside and reflect more, causing you to look at what in your life do you need to get rid of? What in your house do you need to clean out? Where is it obvious that there's too much clutter? Cool. Marianella says, yep, that's me too. Geraldine, thumbs up. Okay, thank you guys, because you're quiet. Normally you're not quiet. Normally you guys are like asking me questions or commenting back. Okay, cool. Listening, it's contributing. You're good. Okay, thank you guys. Sometimes talking to yourself can get a little interesting. You never know. So I'm glad you guys are on with me. And so what I want to invite you to look at is, you might have been here and now you're asking for more awareness, more consciousness, more possibility. Maybe it's more money, maybe it's more fun. And then there's that gap and you're like, oh, but I'm not acknowledging that I'm now here. I'm pretending here. And then things get a little wonky. So what do you do in that gap, right? What do you do when things get funky? What do you do? Number 1, don't judge you. Number one, and go, oh, this is funky, right? But what we tend to do is we tend to judge that we feel funky, and then we like indulge in it, and then we make it worse, and then we judge it more, and then we get more depressed, and then we get more isolated, and then blah. It's like this freaking train wreck of a roller coaster. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, where have I been? Yeah. So, my friends, what I want to invite you right now is I want you to acknowledge where you were a month ago. Just look energetically. What was going on in your life? What was going on in your body? What was going on in your consciousness? Okay. Are you even close to that same person that you were a month ago? No. Okay. So who are you today? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not next week, not last week. Who are you today? Holy cow. Okay. So would you let your body and being calibrate? And you just have to ask and your body will do it. So will you calibrate to this new place? Would you acknowledge that this new place? And so what we tend to do, see if this is light or right for you. What we tend to do is we get here and we're like, oh, okay. And then you go to make a new choice to create your future. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you want to start investing and you've never invested before. Maybe you're in a new relationship. And so you're new and you go, okay, the last time that I did a relationship, this is how I communicated. But do you see what you're doing? You're going back in time. You're looking to the past. Ooh, you can, if you look to the past to try to figure out what to choose, then you'll recreate the same energy. And guess what you do? That disconnect, that funk. And then you're like, oh, when your being is here, or your energy is here, your spirit is here, your soul, whatever you want to call it, right? Your consciousness is here, but now you're functioning as if you're back down here. That would create a bit of disconnect. It might create frustration. You might get upset. You might get depressed. You might get angry, right? All of those things. And so when that happens, that's when you ask the question, what is this facilitating me to choose? What is this facilitating me to acknowledge? What is this facilitating me to change? And what's right about the funk I'm not getting? I got to be honest, I like the funky times that I've had in my life. I look back and I'm like, that made me a better person, but it sucked going through it. So Pooja's asking, can you explain how is it that we get back to past? Yeah. So Pooja, so if you're here, right, and you're humming along and you're like, okay, I've recalibrated. So you guys got the recalibration. Here's what we do. So just acknowledge where your consciousness is today and ask your being and your body and your cells and your molecules and everything to like calibrate to that consciousness. Ooh, okay. So now you're moving forward in your consciousness. And let's say you come to a place where you're like, oh, I'm going on a first date, or I'm going on a fourth date, or I'm going to start a relationship with someone. When we do that, and whether it's business, money, investing, relationship, diet, changing your body, changing, like we'll go, oh, well, last time, and people do this with diets all the time. The last successful diet I went on was this, so I'm going to do that diet again. But a lot of people, they're like, they're a completely different person. They have, their hormones have changed, their age has changed, their consciousness has changed, but the physical molecules of their body has changed. And so they'll go, oh, I'm going to do this diet again. Well, guess what? Is that being present and creating a future, or is that bringing your past? Because now you can judge, oh, let me judge that this is the right diet for me. Instead of body, We've never been in this consciousness at this time before, in this age, in this body, with all of my environmental surroundings. We've never been here today before. What is it that's going to open the door to a greater future and a greater relationship with you and me, right? You do this in a relationship. We go, we've never been here before, so how do we want to move forward? We go, oh, well, this is how I dealt with communication in my relationships in the past. And all of a sudden, you're bringing all that. So that's the funk. So can we let go of everywhere you're using your choices, your successful choices, and your not so successful choices from the past, right? So I'll give you an example. I made a lot of bad investments in my 20s and 30s, and I made a lot of investments from get rich quick, like type of energies, right? So I'd be like, oh yeah, let me give you $10,000 to invest. Let me give you 20. And so now when I look at investments, that energy is still hanging out, right? And it's like, oh man, if I literally had no frame of reference for bad choices or good choices, what choice is available today? Would I invest in this? Right? Okay. So what I want you guys to do is we're going to dissipate and release. Yes, you're so welcome, Pooja. And so what I want you guys to do is any past reference points, any reference points from the past, from your choices, from everything, right, that you have been using to avoid the consciousness now, today, moving forward. There we go. We're going to all you have to do is ask, and the consciousness of your body, because your body has a consciousness, your being has a consciousness. They not always are the same. Sometimes they're very different. Just like a relationship, you got to work together. You got to ride the rough waves when you hit the rough waves, right? I was paddleboarding, stand-up paddleboarding the other day, last weekend, through some rapids. And I had to hold on. And I was so proud of myself for making it through the rapids. I was feeling confident and excited. And then I hit these really big rapids. And I was like, oh, I'm going to make it through. No problem. And I'm holding on and I'm paddling. And yeah, I didn't make it through. I got a fat lip. The board hit me in the mouth, started bleeding. And so oftentimes we will use past reference points, right? And so anytime you're using the past reference points, we're going to remove it out of the consciousness of the body. There you go. You just have to ask and it'll do it. And then remove the past reference points out of the consciousness of your being. Wait, because we don't need to replicate past lifetimes, right? We don't need to replicate past traumas and dramas. And a lot of times what we'll do is actually we'll hold ourselves limited by referencing past reference points of our successes. Because we're like, well, how do we get there again? It's like, what if you didn't use past reference points for your successes and you could open up new places for success that surpass your past successes? What if you could be more successful? Yeah, you guys getting this? There we go. Wow. So I'm like, I don't know if you can feel it, but I can feel it in my whole body. And the body, because it has a consciousness of its own, is one of our greatest teachers. It will constantly invite you to ask yourself and look at, are you resonant with where you're going? Are you aligned with where you're going? And really, it's not an alignment from judgment. It's just, are you congruent with who you are and what you'd like to choose as your future? And so if you're feeling funky, chances are something is off. So it's off to facilitate you to find that place. And it's not about need to be in balance. Like people are always talking about work-life balance or relationship life. Like part of the journey of life is to enjoy all of the facets and all of the energies. If my life was entirely like tried to be perfect, I run a business, and it's like you're dealing with putting out fires every day. You're dealing with people and their emotions and how they feel. And so you can't go, oh, well, let me find even ground all the time. It's how do I stay connected and ride the waves? Yeah. So is it not good to follow an idea of the past, which has given definite success, or do you need to choose something new? Well, it depends, Pooja. So if you can can reference places in your past where you were successful, what you can do is you can ask, how do you take the energy of that success, and what pieces of that success still are relevant to moving you forward? Okay. So let me give you an example and what I mean by that. So I've been successful in real estate. I've been successful in startup companies. I've been successful in starting my own company. I've been successful as a hairdresser. I've had a lot of success. So the dominant theme in my success has been I say yes and then I figure it out. So that energy of saying yes and figuring it out is something that I will constantly use now and in the future. Say yes and figure it out. Say yes and figure it out. Say yes and figure it out. Now, there's limitations in that as well. And so I don't want to take the whole package of say yes and figure it out into my future, because some of that stuff, like there were a lot of learning lessons, there were a lot of failures. And so it's really what's the energy of the success that still would apply to you today and moving forward into your future. Does that make sense? So, tomorrow we're starting. I'm so excited about this. Actually, I talked about it yesterday in my Facebook Live, which if you guys didn't check out yesterday's Facebook Live, after today's, go check it out. I think it was shorter than today's. I don't know. I don't even know how long I've been going for. We're just going. And so yesterday I talked about feel your future. So we're going on a 6-month journey for people who are like, I've had a lot of people ask me for private coaching, private consulting, helping them with their business, helping them with their body, helping them with their relationships. And I'm like, what would it be like if for an entire 6 months, we literally woke up every day and went, what's my consciousness today? And what is available for me to choose to go even further? What's my consciousness today? And what's available for me to choose? And how connected am I, right? How expanded am I? And how do I ride the waves? Not how do I control and balance? Yes. Awesome. Say yes and then figure it out. And so my friends, tomorrow we start this, I can't believe it's tomorrow. We start this 6-month adventure of literally engaging in the consciousness of creating your future. I'm going to say that again. Literally engaging in the consciousness of creating your future. And being present in the consciousness, engage in the energy of creating your future. And so imagine that you had part of why I was successful in different businesses is because I had no frame of reference. So I was stupid enough to say, I'll do it. And then when I realized what I was getting myself into, I was like, oh, no wonder why not many people say yes to being an entrepreneur for longer than 5 years. Most entrepreneurs, don't necessarily last for a long time. I think I've been an entrepreneur, started my own business. I want to say I was 25 years old. So we're going on almost 20 years. And it's ride the waves. How do you stay connected to your consciousness and ride the waves, not judge it, not make it wrong, and still keep going? Yeah. And so if you guys are like, wow, what are you talking about? I want to come play. You can go to KatherineMcIntosh.com and check out I'll also put the link in the comments so you can go straight to the link. We've got lots of different payment options if that's of interest to you. But with that being said, I want to get back to this idea that when you, there it is, there's the link. When you, it's called Feel Your Future, and it's a 6-month journey, right? So, but when you stay connected to the essence of who you are, to the energy of who you are, and look, it changes every day because the planet changes every day, the earth changes every day, the molecules in the solar system change every day, the molecules in your body change every day. And one of the fun facts that I used to talk about a lot, in fact, it's in my upcoming book, which will be out soon, someday, sometime, is that every 24 hours, check this out, this is kind of insane. Every 24 hours, 864 million cells leave your body, they die, and 864 million new cells come into your body. So every second, it's 10,000 cells. So if you, it's like 10,000, I don't know, do the math. It ends up being 864 million cells. That's a lot, right? 864 million cells every 24 hours get renewed in your body. And so if you're not carrying the past baggage, the past hurts, the past pains, the past successes, and you're literally going, what can I create today? What can I choose today? What can I be today? That is what's available. So part of why things get funky in social distancing is because we have all of this energy of how our lives used to be, of how the world used to function. I freaking hate wearing a mask. But if I was born in a time where masks were normal, I wouldn't have a frame of reference that it's annoying, right? And so it would just be normal to me. And so, you know, part of when things get funky or we get depressed or things get hard is because we're literally referencing past. And then there's that disconnect because it's not what's actually true in the now. So you got to ask, what's available to you now? Not yesterday, not the day before. What's available to you now? Right. OMG, says Pooja. Exactly. Feel your future. Are you ready for it? And so if that would be fun for you, you guys are invited, but it literally, you guys, you wouldn't have a past reference point. So things get funky when you reference how things used to be instead of ask, okay, they're different. Let it go. People who grieve their relationships, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go through grief. I'm not saying that you shouldn't grieve when somebody passes or gets ill. What I am saying is that the reference point of it is what creates the depression, what creates the loneliness. When, if you're willing to let go of the reference point and allow the energy of the sadness, of the grief, of the pain, of the suffering to contribute to you, and you didn't judge it and you didn't make you wrong, you would create so much more. I know it's a little crazy, but it's true. You guys with me? So I probably have talked your ear off. I'm good at that. Do any of you have any questions in this? So if you're feeling funky, right, it's usually because there's a gap between where you actually are and where you're functioning from. Okay? And if you were to eliminate that, so one of the things that I do is I ask my body to catch up to the change. I ask my being, catch up to, and literally, you guys, it's not like you have to work hard. The body responds to requests. The universe responds to requests. So if you would like more money, request of the universe more money. If you would like a more conscious relationship, request of the universe a more conscious relationship, instead of complaining that you don't have it. Because you don't have it, 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 it creates not having it. I really want to get it, 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 creates not having it. But requesting, flirting, inviting, choosing, that's what gets things going. Oh, baby. Oh, that's all I got to say. Oh, baby. Yeah. So I just want to thank you guys so much for being here, for listening to this live. If this inspired you, please leave a comment. If it inspired you and you want to share it, please share it on your wall or share it in a group or with somebody. And you don't have to do it alone. And then asking, one of actually my favorite tools from Access Consciousness is to ask the question when I'm feeling depressed, when I'm feeling funky, when I'm feeling unsure of myself, when the world just feels weird. So last night I had a good cry and I was like, I asked, who does this belong to? The pain and suffering I was feeling in my body was not my pain and suffering. So I just let it go. How do you flirt with the universe? You ask. like, how do you flirt with a person that you are interested in? I mean, I flirt with like kids. Kids are amazing flirts, right? So you just ask, you go, hey, universe, oh, wouldn't it be fun if I could have this new sexy car that turns my body on and like lights up everything and everyone in my life? That's flirting. But if I'm like, oh, universe, I need a car, that is not flirting. Okay. So you just want to, it's that soft, voluptuous, energetic, how do you ask? So that's what I got to say. How do you flirt with the universe, baby? So, my friends, thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Thank you for asking your questions and giving your energy. And if you want to come join us for fuel, you're welcome. And in the meantime, yeah, how do you flirt with the universe to start asking for what you want? Because that'll take you out of your funk. The minute somebody flirts, you are super cool. Thank you. The minute you start, like, let's say you're in a funky mood and someone pays you a compliment, it changes it instantaneously. So the more you're willing to flirt, the more you're willing to have the gratitude of possibilities. I woke up this morning funky. I woke up this morning, I did not want to get on a Facebook Live. But guess what? I talked to two of my friends and we laughed and flirted with each other. Both females, right? And then I got a message from another friend of mine, also a female. Guys, you have to be willing to flirt. So that's all I got for you for today. Thank you for being here. Go out and make it a fantastic day. And if you haven't liked this page, like it, because I go live a lot and say a lot of sometimes cool things, sometimes all random. So, and if you are catching this on YouTube, yes, subscribe, notify. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, go to go search us, Katherine McIntosh, on YouTube. If you're on YouTube and you want to come on Facebook, No Judgment Diet on Facebook. So you guys, thank you for being here. Go out and make it a fantastic day and hope to see you next time somewhere in the world. Bye for now.